All right. TCF patch 1.3.8. These patch notes came out July 19th, 2022. I believe the patch is going live July 20th, Wednesday, which is tomorrow and today for those of you guys watching on the YouTube. Hello, prospectors. It is time for the next update. 1.3.8 is here, and we have a bunch of fixes and changes for you. 1.3.8, didn't we skip some numbers? Yes and no. Some stuff is too small for a full patch, like quick hotfixes and ninja updates that don't require maintenance. Those still get a version number, though, hence the discrepancy between last patch and this one. Hope that'll clear up some confusion. Anyway, let's dive into the patch notes. Changes. We've reduced some of the PvP mission requirements. I personally am not a huge fan of this. I already think that they weren't very high. Like, I can't think of a single quest where I need to kill more than 3 players with something specific. And I don't think that that's bad. I could be okay if like they reduced SMG from 3 to 2 because you get the quest early. SMGs are trash. The only ones you have early are the extra trash ones, and that quest can be a pain in the ass. So I can understand that. But I think for the most part, the other ones aren't bad. Kills required in the adjusted missions now require 1 or 2 fewer victims. That's okay, but it was only like ever 3 total. I can't think of one that was like specifically really challenging. Anyway, that's just me. Again, that's like from the perspective of someone that thinks like PvP is one of the best parts of the game. Similar change to PvE. We've tweaked some of the numbers for mid and late game hunting missions. That's probably for the best. Those, to me, feel a bit tedious sometimes, and I can understand that. Epic Shield. Reduce smart mesh and hardened bone plates requirement from 3 to 2. That's good. I think that's okay. I think like 2 smart mesh feels infinitely better than 3 smart mesh. The bone plates aren't that hard to farm. Let's be honest. You get a shatter gun, you kill Jeffs, bada bing, bada boom. It's free. 2 or 3 shots to the face, you're done. Laser drill beacon. Reduce smart mesh requirement from 4 to 2. I like this change. It just means more laser drills, and more laser drills equals more PvP, more player interaction, all good things. After further analyzing our data on PvP encounters, the maximum number of players active on an instance has already been reduced by 1 for both maps. I don't like this because of the MMR. I think this could be fine if there were no MMR in the game, but because of the MMR, the higher MMR groupings, the buckets, have reduced numbers already by default, especially at this point in the wipe. You've probably noticed that the higher you've climbed, the less people you're running into more frequently, and them reducing the max doesn't feel great as a result. Not huge on this. Don't really like this change. I think it would feel less. We would feel this less again if it was all completely random. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's not right now until they make that change. It's small. We've tinkered with our matchmaking to protect fresh players better and to increase the challenge for good squad players. This adjustment will also slightly adjust the experience for good solo players. It doesn't tell us how you changed it, though. I don't like how this is veiled. They've been pretty open about this, and maybe it's because of the criticism by certain people in the community. Me. I'll say it, me. Maybe that's why they're not giving us as much information, so I can't sit here and pick it apart. Either way, I kind of hate all of this. I'm glad that they protect fresh players. I think it's important too. I think it's important that those fresh players learn the game in their own little, protected sphere, their own bubble. But once they are done with their new player bubble and they've gotten to a certain point of proficiency, they should be out there in the wild with everybody else. Completely mixed. For a million reasons that we've talked about 1,000 times. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or you don't understand how MMR works, check some of our previous videos. We've given Jeff, our beloved Marauder, a brand new attack. That's actually kind of pog. I love that. I'm into that. I think that'll be nice. That'll switch things up. Players in the tutorial will now wear blue armor instead of green. Okay. Weapon adjustment. Bulldog increased spread 30%. I still think this is the wrong nerf for the Bulldog. Changing spread isn't going to do what needs to be done to make it not OP. This is not going to change anything because the range at which the Bulldog is already used is, hey, about this close. You know what I mean? I'm in your mouth. And it doesn't matter how much they make it spread. All those pellets are going to hit you. So I just don't think that it's, I don't know. If they really want to nerf it, it would require a different kind of change, like more time in between shots, longer time to reload, things like that would make it a lot less viable. Just my 2 cents. Rework the recoil pattern of the Advocate. Horizontal recoil does not go back and forth like a feral animal anymore. Nice. That's for the best. I just don't think like horizontal recoil is like intelligent control. A little bit is okay, but the way that it worked was not, did not feel good. It's like a skill check, right? To like fight against vertical recoil in a game. Horizontal's almost impossible and completely unpredictable when it's like back and forth. So core reduced initial vertical recoil. Vertical recoil is more consistent. Nice. That's good. That's a nice buff to the core, which probably needed it and deserved it. ASP Flechette reduced horizontal recoil. Good. Vertical is slightly increased for the second half of the magazine. This is good. I want to see guns continue to climb if nothing is done by the user to pull down on the mouse. If you're not trying to challenge that vertical recoil climb, then it should keep climbing. I don't want to see the recoil just level off at some point. I think that like the way that Tark specifically does it is like completely brain dead. It jumps for the first few bullets and then it's a laser beam. And that just doesn't make any sense. Not only does it make any sense, but it's also just like a completely not skillful thing. If you want to dump an entire magazine, you should have to have the presence of mind to manage that recoil the whole time that you're shooting. Voltaic Brute, same thing. Great. Perfect. Big changes. Good changes. Good changes overall. I'd say the only thing that I don't like is the Bulldog change. And I understand what they're trying to do, and it does need to be nerfed slightly. Still way too strong, but I don't think this is the right way to do it. Additional words from our creative director, Days, on the state of balancing. Where are we in terms of balancing at the moment? In general, we see people are starting to use late game gear increasingly as we get further into the season. Great, but we also see that better the gun and armor, the more likely you are to win a fight by quite a bit. This data is a bit tricky to interpret as it is muddled somewhat by the fact that the better the gun you have, the more experience in the game you likely have. But overall, we're getting to a spot where guns perform roughly as we would want them to, where if you have higher tier gun, you are significantly more likely to win, but not as much that a player with gray gear has zero chance, even when outsmarting their opponent. I just don't think that even in like the bucket system that they have right now, that you can analyze the data that exists as is and land on this outcome. Not really. What are we tuning weapons wise? I think that it's true, and I think that it's the right way to go about it. But I don't think like you can look at that data and make meaningful inferences, right? Because it's like significantly muddled by tons of factors, right? Honestly, the better you are, the least good stuff that you use a lot of the time, right? So that muddles it the opposite way. Because you want to give yourself a challenge, and that's fun. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's really hard to like, I don't agree with like their, what they're pointing to as if there's like a meaningful correlation there. Or if they can look at the data and interpret that or use that as a guideline for how to balance the game, because it's just not possible. Not really. Granted, they're landing in about the right spot regardless. So I guess it's nothing to complain about. What we are tuning weapon-wise for this patch is the recoil of late-game weapons, making them slightly less across the board unruly. What we want is more of a mix in each tier of different recoil behaviors. When it comes to armor and pricing, we're making epic armor slightly easier to craft. Saw that. We want it to be in a place, once again, it is tough balance to strike. Late-game players do not want to take their top gear into raids. That's always going to be the case regardless of what you price it as. Doesn't matter. It's always going to be the case. That's just like, that's a combination of gear fear and getting tired of being successful. You know, again, like I mentioned earlier, like a lot of the times when you have all that great stuff accessible to you, using it doesn't always feel super meaningful, and it's more fun to use shittier gear to try and get come-ups, because that gives you a better rush. If you're truly a better player, that's oftentimes like a better experience in general. I think the novelty of the best stuff wears off pretty quick, because at the end of the day, I think it's like the challenge and presenting yourself with that challenge that gives you like the real come up rush, right? Basically, we want it to be a tactical choice when and if to bring what gear, also a late tier play. Of course, a big deterrent, I think is what they meant, from going in with most expensive gears getting killed by a cheater. More on that below. Let us know what you think and keep the feedback coming for sure. That's another huge part of why people aren't bringing their best stuff in, because they're going to get hacked against. They get targeted by people who are cheating because ESP tells those cheaters what they have, even if they see them all the way on the other side of the map, they can see what they're using. So then they go towards that direction and target them. We have fixed an exploit in the final area of the Crusher Caverns. Okay. I fixed some specific cases with where the audio profile of a player did not reset when exiting a cave. Great. That's huge. This is what would happen. Let's say you go through the cave between, there's like a pathway that leads into the south side of Dig Site, and then the jungle. There's a cave pathway through there. And when you would go through it, a lot of the time, most of the time, the only sounds that you would hear afterwards is player movement and nothing else. Like you wouldn't even hear like an extract ship land, like come and go at all. So that was interesting. It's real. People would do this on purpose so that they could hear players more easily, and it was a bit cheesy. So I'm glad that they're working on this. Fixed an issue where a Crusher's projectile would just remain stuck on them after being shot in their weak spot. The pain dishing would will resume appropriately. Okay, I haven't seen this, but that's good. Fixed an issue with the pathfinding of Striders. They finally learned to read a map. Fixed an issue that would appear when skipping tech tree upgrades. Okay. I've noticed there's a huge delay on tech tree upgrades sometimes, even when it finishes, even when the timer expires, it takes a really long time to actually like show that it's done, and that's pretty frustrating. It basically incentivized me to just use the skip no matter what, which doesn't always feel good because it's a poor choice of resource use, in my opinion. Unless you're absolutely ready to hit like the next one, it feels really bad to click that button. But I've been doing it anyway to avoid the bug. Fixed an issue where sounds just disappeared, like the cries of helpless prospectors lost in a vacuum of space. Okay. Improved server performance and applied a fix for server crashes. Should be smoother now. That's good. Servers have been a little wonky lately. A couple more fixes were applied previously, so just in case you missed them, players who owned the Ronin in the previous version of the game will now have access to the outfit pieces, and players who owned the Troublemaker, same. Miscellaneous change. After reviewing our data, we noticed some detection thresholds for our internal... we've reduced some detection thresholds for our internal anti-cheat measures. That's great. Basically meaning that they will ping and ban people a little bit more freely. Like they will get detected a little bit more easily, which is big, which is really good. That means they feel really confident about who they're banning and who they're not banning. The Biker Queen is still scuffed. That's been a known issue. Player quarter upgrade may take longer than expected. See, this is what I'm talking about. So this is a known issue, but it's actually not the fix that's discussed above. Okay. We have changed the player support tool in the game already, but it's currently not possible to send us tickets on the website. Got it. Okay. Finally, we'd like to share a quick update on something Dave's mentioned to you. You folks in here most likely have seen the Cheater Dev video already. That's true. Okay, we've seen that. And we also did a video on that. We can put that up above in the cards, Sean. Thank you. We are working on a lot of improvements on the anti-cheat front, as outlined in the video. We recommend giving it a quick watch if you haven't yet. The compensation feature is on a good track, and we are looking into some additional methods to provide an experience as tedious as possible for cheaters and RMT folks alike. Excellent. Really good. On the right track, there's no doubt about it. On the right track, almost all of these feel really good and are meaningful changes. They're really keying in the balance the right way for the most part. I still think Bulldog is going to be too OP, but other than that, I think this is going to be in a good spot. I like that it's a bit easier to craft the better armor. And yeah, as long as they continue to kill off these cheaters, I think we're looking funky fresh. Let me know what your favorite changes are down below. If you're still having a good time, if you're still playing. If not, let me know what changes you'd like to see to bring it back to the game in the comments below. Thank you guys. Appreciate you watching, and good luck out there, prospectors.